And we're sticking with the theme of West Indies cricket for this segment of the zone. The Caribbean side were swept 3-0 in their women's T20 international series against England after losing the third encounter by 17 runs in Chelmsford on Monday. Despite delivering their best bowling effort of the series, which included the early scalps of openers Danny Watt-Hodge without scoring and Sophia Dunkley for three, the West Indies were subjected to a Heather Knight classic. The former England captain carved out an unbeaten 66 to help drag the hosts to 144 for 5 from their allotment as current skipper Nat Siver-Brunt chipped in with 37 against figures of 3 for 32 from opposite number Hayley Matthews. Now, player of the series, Matthews then returned to hit a 54-ball 71, keeping the visitors in the game for majority of the chase. It was, however, a familiar tale with the bat as the Maroon Warriors failed to find another major contributor before being restricted to 127 for 8 in 20 overs on the back of 2 wickets apiece from Lauren Bell, 2 for 11, Lindsay Smith, 2 for 25, Arlott and Dean also picked up 2 for 26 and 2 for 31, respectively. Now, Captain Matthews was pleased with the showing from a rather new-look West Indies unit, and she said, "I think Jazara Claxton came in that first innings and bowled beautifully on debut to get her first wicket, but also to showcase her talent with the amount of variations that she was able to use today. And then Reliana Grimmond getting her second match today and definitely looked a lot better at the crease, which I know she'll be happy about. So super proud that they were able to get an opportunity. I think Zayda James set the tone twice now, getting that first wicket. I think we feel it a lot better and executed our plans a lot nicer too when we were bowling. Now, while acknowledging her team's substandard display in the field, the England captain Nat Siver-Brunt was also relatively happy with their performance. She said, "We played some brilliant cricket over the series, probably didn't have our perfect game today, but we set the standard pretty high in the first 2 games. I think the way that we started to get up to that score was really competitive. The wicket seemed quite stuffy and they made it difficult for us. We want to be feeling perfectly every time. I guess from the first 2 games we feel it brilliantly, and to put in the same performance every time can be difficult at times." Now, Joseph Reds Pereira now joins us via Zoom to look back at the series, an unsuccessful series for the West Indies Reds, but the Hayley Matthews performance in the series, I think, highlighted by the fact that in the face of her team losing the series in a sweep, she was still named player of the series.
Yes, 177 runs plus the wicket she got. But it must be getting very sort of worrying to all of us, and maybe more to the West Indies board about what is taking place here. You have to rely on Hayley Matthews now totally, and unless today she made 100, we probably would not have been able to challenge England 144. I know there was no Taylor injury, there was no Campbell. I was a little surprised, although we had England at 3 for 37. James picking up the wicket of Hodge, but funny enough, Lance and Ricardo, James had 2 overs, no middles, 1 for 4. The early bowlers did a good job. The Glasgow 1 over for 9. Claxton, as you highlighted, 4 overs, no middles, 1 for 15. But then the backup bowler, Fletcher, 3 for 29. Aline, 2 for 30. And Muniswar, 3 for 21. You really expected a much better performance. But overall, England would have been disappointed at 144 for 5. And one could say that despite what we read and what we talked about, they could have been very happy at 144 for 5. That was not something totally out of the reach, but it really depended on another Matthews show. And when you look at the batting, we were again in trouble. We lost Joseph without scoring. Matthews 71. The next best was Grimmond 15, who hit 2 fours in that encouraging knock according to the captain, and Gajbani 14 from 22. But, I think it's really time for the West Indies board to really pay attention. Now, you could say that if Taylor gets back fit and we get Dotting back, we will have a decent time, plus the Jamaican all-rounder Henry. But we've got to deal with what we have now, and it doesn't look like we will be competitive when we reach South Africa, which is coming up very soon.
Yeah, your thoughts on Hayley Matthews' comments at the end of the game, Reds, about being happy with some of the new players getting an opportunity like Claxton and so on, which, based on what you're saying they look short of the level that they need to be at. But she seemed to be quite encouraged by the fact that, given their exposure to this point, that she is seeing something in some of these new players who got a chance today.
Yes, I think Claxton's 4 overs, no business, 1 for 15. Very encouraging indeed. But I expected, and I can share this question with you and Ricardo, whether we are not getting a below performance from an experienced Aline and a experienced Fletcher. I mean, they went for a great deal of runs, but don't understand. If I can go back to the first point I made, why James only had 2 overs, no business, 1 for 4.
Yeah, I thought she had an economy rate of 2, didn't she? So it was a little bit mystifying that she didn't come back to complete her overs. On the point of Aline, I think she has the makings of a solid cricketer, both with bat and ball. To me, she looks a little less fit now than she may have been 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm not sure if in some way that could be impacting her performances. But I think she's a natural cricketer. And I look at her bowl, and I look at her in the field, and I look at her bat, and I think that if she settles down, she can be the kind of player who can do well for the West Indies in the future.
And the same thing applies to Glasgow, a promising player from St. Vincent. She came on the scene. She was very impressive with her early work. But she seemed to have dropped a couple of steps down. She hasn't quite produced as Claxton did. She normally picks up a couple of wickets and get runs. But Lance, they don't seem to be any real light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, this might well continue for a very long time. I don't know what the board, and there's no silver bullet that they can do. They have to deal with the talent they got, the injury they have, and the future looks very, very bleak. I mean, Matthew's got to score 100 just about every time to keep West Indies in the fray. But today, the rest of the batting added 56. That is not going to cut against an international side. And all the other sides really and truly have improved. You can't say that Pakistan has not improved, that Bangladesh has not improved, Sri Lanka has not improved. We have seemed to have gone backwards.
Yeah. I want to get a comment from you on something that Hayley Matthews had said over the weekend, because after the first defeat, she was reflecting on the struggles of this current West Indies team. And she was making the point in an interview, I think we have a graphic that puts out what she actually said, where she thinks that I think it definitely has nothing to do with the effort that they're putting in. She said, we're asking girls who have probably played 30 to 40 domestic games ever in their life, if so much, to come and perform at the international stage. And it's always going to be hard for them and hard to ask coaches as well to come to this level and turn girls into magic when we don't have a proper system to come through. So I think we just have to keep encouraging them as much as possible. It's obviously a steep learning curve, but at the same time, the mistakes that they're making, we're all going to learn from them together. So comments there from Hayley Matthews that difficult as it is for her, she appears to understand the task that she faces, given the lack of development of the players coming through our system. And I'm not sure how you feel about those Haley Matthews comments, Reds.
I welcome them. I think that it was a bold statement, an honest statement, and maybe the West Indies board needs to look at that statement. In the past, we have carried a lot of baggage with some players who were just kept too long, and these very young players that Haley Matthews referred to would have had another 5, 6, or 10 matches if they were exposed in the place of those players who they kept playing. I think so. Basically, what has transpired over the years in terms of developing and exposing young players now really beginning to come true and hurt us. And and there need to be some very, very quick plans for Miles Bascom and company. They on the 19 team that went to the World Cup, they need special attention. We need to go back to our girls starting the game at 12 and 13. Other countries are doing exactly that. Our schools, I've said before in this program, we play everything else at the secondary school. We do not play cricket among the girls. Trinidad has got 6 clubs. How many clubs do you have in the Eastern Caribbean? How many clubs do you have in Jamaica?
Yeah, good points there, Reds. We're going to leave it there. We'll talk again maybe later this week because I know the 8 teams are there in St. Lucia playing cricket. The next game coming up on Tuesday as well. But Reds, always great talking to you on the SportsMax Zone. We'll talk again soon.
Right, and Tottenham did win a trophy.
Yes, they did, Tottenham fan. Congratulations, sir.
And to Derek Murray.
Okay, yeah, he's a Tottenham fan as well. Okay, we go to break. We have a lot of cricket coming up on the show today and on the other side of the break. I think we're going to talk some Tata IPL.